Hello, guys. My name is Vipers. Welcome to the GameTakes podcast, episode 51. Tonight's topic, we'll be talking about drug abuse in esports. Now, this topic was kind of off the bat, kind of because of the news that we got yesterday, as we're kind of getting more into detail. And also, this has been on my mind for maybe a year now, but it hasn't come to full circle. I wanted to come up with this topic a year ago because I knew drug abuse was a big concern, especially for younger populations, same thing as older population in the gaming world, and that's something I was really concerned about. So I kind of want to go more in depth on it, along with the situation that we're going to kind of explain more that happened yesterday. So we're going to let our guest introduce himself, and we'll get going here. As the mic's on mute. And
There we go. All right, here we go. Hey, how's it going? My name is my in-game alias is Conwa. You can call me Connor. I am a competitive COD player for Team Nuclear. I have been competing for about 7 or 8 years on and off. But big fan of the Call of Duty League. And I love talking sports, esports. So here I am.
yeah, that's perfect. Kind of we all started from the COD scene. So, opening topic question. This was I didn't put it down, but kind of let's talk about kind of the current CLs. Like, just you have a favorite team. I have a favorite team. We kind of want to kind of talk about like the opinions about it. So let's kind of start. First thing, what team do you kind of support, and what do you kind of think about their season so far, like their current progression, all that? Kind of
Sure.
makes sense.
So my favorite team actually does happen to be 100 Thieves. I have the first person I watched getting into competitive was Nate Shot, and if you don't know, Nate Shot is the
Yep.
owner of 100 Thieves. So seeing how his life kind of came full circle from player to organization owner and how successful and quick his rise has been, and his partnership with Dan Gilbert, who owns Quicken Loans, from Cleveland, Quicken Loans Arena. It was the name of the Cavs Center, Cavs Arena. So I just it all just kind of correlated, kind of worked out. I just and I love the branding, but their season this year, not exactly what you want it to be. I think I think there's been some poor decisions on the coaching end. I think there's been some really smart decisions from managerial side. Bringing in Hook, when you have a player that caliber that's sitting on the bench, if you have the chance to bring him in, I think that's incredible. Um, I think they've tried different things. They've tried to make what they have work, but none of it really has. But I'm definitely excited and looking forward to what they can do on LAN with. I know they just announced their new roster. They called up Slasher and Hook in replace of Venom and Drazen. I think those two players are great, but I'm definitely looking forward to seeing some star-studded names in that lineup coming back in the LAN.
Yeah, I was it's like the six or seven roster of the year, and that's probably the most
Yeah,
for a team. Um,
definitely.
I saw Florida Muniers kind of start off slow, but going back to top, currently 3-1 in the stage, which is good. They got a team we're gonna kind of be talking about. Same thing as you mentioned, Hook. That's another player we're gonna be kind of talking about for the podcast, the Dallas Empire on Saturday. So go 4-1 there. Have made 10 times less moves than the D's. Again, they only replaced one player, which was Select for Havoc. So they got ingrown house name. They haven't poached anyone from the outside. Start slow. Now it's rising up. Good placement at the majors, top six. I know it could be better, but if you can get, I think they have a chance to be a top four team. I think you kind of look at where the balance is right now. You can say, okay, Atlanta, New York, Toronto, and then the fourth spot could be anyone's. Maybe Optic holds at the moment, but again, I think you fight for the top four. So yeah, that's kind of talking about just curious. That's just starting off with the questions since it's going to be focusing on the COD esports team. So let's get into the main topic, talking about drug abuse in esports. Now, this was a talked about situation yesterday. Hook, you already mentioned being a part of 100 LA 100 Thieves again. 100 Thieves is Los Angeles Thieves, if you guys are curious. Um, A COD Pro player for the Los Angeles Thieves admitted to taking Adderall during his champs-winning performance last year with the Dallas Empire. This affected his overall behavior inside and mostly this happens a lot. This affected his overall behavior inside and outside the game. So I got a couple questions that kind of relate to this. So first thing I got is, what was your reaction when you first heard that?
Um,
The
so for me, wasn't surprised. Um, my reaction actually from the start has been more of a good one. Um, I think it's really sad, seeing, because I've known multiple players. I still know multiple players that, take Adderall, have excessive energy drinks, have things that they rely on in order for them to feel like they can compete at a high level in Call of Duty. And it's because that stuff works, but it, also creates a really addictive personality, and it creates habits that are just not healthy for your body. Um, so when I saw, him putting out something like that, I felt bad for him, because he's going to take a lot of heat from it. I know Barstool just came out a couple hours ago and had some horrible title, making it looking like he was like some cheater, like he was like intentionally trying to get an upper leg on other people or something. But in reality, there's so many people that, I'm not a direct source for the Call of Duty League, but I've heard it, from multiple players that a lot of people utilize Adderall or different sources to help them increase their focus, to help them increase, their drive, try and be a better teammate. Um, so my initial reaction was a good one. I was just happy to see that someone was trying to take a step forward for themselves, but also for the community and try and get it out in front of it.
oh,
Because I think that's important.
yeah, I just found the Barstool Esports sports title PED in esports, performance enhancing drugs in esports. Call of Duty pro player who commits to cheating in a $4.6 million tournament. Though it's not really, it's kind of hard to consider that cheat. It is kind of illegal, kind of not allowed by the rule book, but they don't. That's one thing that we're going to get further into. It's not really cheating. Well, it's kind of cheating, but again, you still, it's not like you're putting like something that's going to help you in the game. The Adderall can probably affect you in and out of, just inside the
Yeah.
game. So my reaction to it was, I think I was like, okay, so I knew there was going to be a video posted. He tweeted out, I believe, May 25th. That was when they dropped them, unexpectedly dropped them. They brought back TJ into the roster after, picking up Hook and, that still questionable roster move that happened. It was okay. So I didn't know what the video was going to, I thought he was going to talk more about the situation with the Dallas Empire, why he got dropped. And that got later further, that further got occurred with this, actually being gameplay issues with Rainbow Ray. Continue talking about that. So that was gameplay related, nothing that kind of drug related. And then you see the video released yesterday, and it was like, huh, interesting. I never because someone like you who competes in the scene, you see people take those stimulant drugs all the time, and it's some someone like me who doesn't really kind of notice that because again I'm not on the competitive side, don't compete for money or in a lot of tournaments daily where I need there has to be drugs or my friends have to take Adderall or stimulant enhancing drugs to get going. But it's something that you never really kind of think about because you see Game Fuel, Rogue Energy, all these energy drinks products kind of being like the stimulants, but it's kind of just caffeine. It's nothing kind of that's going to really affect your behavior too much.
Yep.
So hearing that is like, huh, maybe there is a big concern for it. I think just finally, first thing someone admitted to it. Now it's just a question: what would the league kind of talk about it? Overall, because you see all these players tweeting out. Just for example, Mox admitting to taking Adderall affecting his life. Aqua used to take it. Zero back in Black Ops 3. That was a long time ago. So um, Aqua was stopped for a year. Uh, Mox was stopping for 3 months. He started doing it after he kind of got dropped from Florida Mutineers or benched. Many other players who have, and we don't know why it's taking so long to step up. We also heard stuff that Slasher was, Los Angeles Chiefs player, trying to enforce a stimulant enhancing ban, kind of drug test, and we don't know what's going to happen with that. But I was it was just out of ordinary. I don't think anyone was going to expect it. It was just there's been a couple behaviors kind of noticed. I thought, okay, maybe who is having mental health problems. It was kind of noticed. I think it was mentioned on Reddit. I don't know. I think one of the matches he was crying before the match, and we don't know what that was for. Maybe it's something hard. There was something mental health side, and the guy confirmed. So it was just shocking to see someone of a talented player who's been, you know, really have mental health kind of issues where there has to be Adderall because of kind of the stuff. So I got a couple questions kind of relate to this hook situation. Why do you believe esports players take stimulants like Adderall and Ritalin in the first place, or any gamers in a sense?
Sure. I'll stick to Call of Duty just because, that's what I know, that's what I love, that's what I
Yeah,
play. Um, to play Call of Duty competitively, when you get to that top 1%, it really takes a lot mentally, even to just play one series when you have to play 100%, you're thinking about call outs. You're thinking about, where your teammates are playing positionally. You're trying to listen to what your teammates are saying while also playing the game, having the hand-eye coordination to hold the controller. There's a whole lot of things that go into competing. And when you're at that high of a level, just one, you know, millimeter of overdraw on your controller could turn into a lost gunfight, which could turn into a lost round, which could turn into a lost match. So I think a lot of the time, I think people are trying to optimize, you know, their chance for success and lower their risk of failure. And I think increasing your focus and your drive, um, and I think, a lot of at least those are a lot of the stereotypes that are involved with, taking Adderall. It calms you down, it calms your senses. There's a lot of adrenaline that goes on, especially when you're, playing search and destroy, you're in a 1v1. It's like, holy cow, you could start to feel your chest just popping. You could just feel your heart popping right out of your chest. Um, so I think a lot of players, it seems like the right thing to do. It's going to help you stay calm, stay collected, stay focused, and stay passionate and on topic. Um, so I think it's, to really stay on top of your game and also to make sure that you're not falling behind. Because if you fall behind for 1 second, then you're done, you know?
that's kind of what I go with. I think, yeah, it's just kind of what you kind of went on top of. It's just the pressure. You always, you want the least mistakes possible, and sometimes those gunfights can make a big difference. Just,
Hmm.
you just lose. You can't. You lose hindsight. You get too distracted easily. Maybe you overcommit something, and that could be costly. I think mentioning about just one thing I kind of want to talk about just throughout all these sports is kind of the pressure, kind of this your job security. It's something that's not really secure. You can look at other, being a nurse. You just say, for example, being a nurse, being a physical therapist, being a businessman. Well, sometimes business managers might have business manager, construction, all these kind of real life jobs where it's not really involving a lot. Well, unless you kind of work for IT, but any of these real life hand coordination jobs, yeah, they probably do require um, focus and all that, but it's something that isn't, you still get some exercise out of it. Gaming, you don't really, but the thing is, you still get job security out of it, because you're not going to lose it because you take drugs. You kind of take caffeine and all that, but because as you got to confirm salary, you know what you're going to get paid of it. But gaming, it's something where you don't know if you're going to lose your job in 1 second. You have a bad series, people will fan vote you, just
Yeah,
criticize
it's
you.
performance based.
Yeah. So you do bad in your performance, what could I do? Well, maybe I'll try, just give an example. Slasher. Oh, fuck, we'll go with. Let's go with Slasher. We'll go with someone who doesn't commit to it. Slasher has a couple bad series. 0.84, 0.62. He first at the weaker teams. First like a Seattle Surge and a Paris Legions. He had those bad series. You know, maybe I'll just he gets addicted. He gets tries Adderall, and it turns into a bad side. He does really better, but he has those side effects. And the reason he's doing that is he knows he could be dropped out of the contract and not be back in the league. You know how hard it is to, it's a 50. You get confirmed 50K. You can make 100 based on how popular the player is. Maybe makes Slasher makes 150K a year. He loses that real quick, and then he just goes down the challenger pool. He might not get picked up by a challengers team. There's not a lot of challengers teams with organizations. This also counts for any esport, especially if you're in the amateur scene. This is more so for the amateur scene because you don't have really a secure blanket of money unless your more orgs commit to the challenger scene, which again you don't have a lot for NA or EU. APAC got a ton, but again that's not really high paying. So you look at that and say, okay, I got to do good because there's money on my line. There's I got to care. Just maybe some players you can look at Apathy, you can look at Karma. In the past, I need this money so I can secure more for my family because I got a kid, I got a wife to, I have to take care of. I want to own a house, maybe I have to pay house payments, car payments. There's a lot more along the line. It's something that, if you lose it in a year, you might not get paid. You might not get paid that much. The only thing you rely on is streaming at that point, and some amateur players have to rely on streaming, but it's not common. Otherwise, you got to rely at the challenger scene where you don't really, again, you don't have the confirmed salary. You're not, unless you, good thing is they buffed up the challenger scene this year where it's $1 million going straight into it. But otherwise, yeah, that's not really going to help that much long term. So you have all these effects go into you, and that's what kind of gets people into it. And that's why I believe that's DC Sports at least take it because it's not a secure job. It's not a secure job. It's something where you can lose it in an instant. You have one bad performance, you can look at maybe another case in Valorant with Sinatra. Good thing he has a lot of money, but just say you're a up and comer. You just first esport, you make it in a month, and then you get caught, or you have bad performances, you might get another chance because your name is not really high regarded. Now you can look at players like they just say we go for like the new players. Venom. He gets caught with Adderall, or he's having those bad performances right now. He's not going to have enough for next year because he did not prove enough this year, and now he's gonna. It's gonna be. You have to perform all the time, but people have to rely on the drug because there's job security along with it. If it kind of makes sense.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you. I think the job security or the lack thereof, um, in esports is what kind of draws a lot of people away. I mean, that's what that at the same time is what makes it the elite of the elite. That's it's the same thing in regular sports. If you don't make if you are not, performing to the standard of your team, if you're not performing to the standard of the league, you're not going to make the team. You're not going to stay in the league. And I think that's a good thing and a bad thing, but I think that also, it's the same reason why players, for example, in the MLB, they could be using steroids. Or right now, there's this scandal with they have pitchers are putting a sticky substance on the ball to get a better grip on it and to get a higher spin rate, which makes it harder for the batter to hit the ball. People are always trying to find different ways to get an advantage on other people to make their team better, but more importantly, to make themselves look better. And I think the same goes for esports. There's not a lot of financial security in it, and that's been part of the thing that's really pushed me back from what I think is my full potential. I if you look at it from a job security standpoint, I'm in the top half percent of Call of Duty players in the entire world, and I don't make any money. And unless I dedicated all my time into it, I still don't even have a chance sometimes of even making that much money, even if I devote my life to it. You really have to be the creme de la creme. You got to be the upper echelon in order to find job security and financial security and have that, blanket of safety to really be financially stable in the world of esports. And that's just not something I've been willing to sacrifice. I'm working full time in, the mortgage business right now. I don't, I, my heart tells me I would love to, just sit down and play video games all day and get paid to do it. But, my brain tells me unless I'm, that top 100 player in the world, it's not going to happen, and you don't get to that top 100 players in the world unless you bust your butt to get there.
Mhm.
So I get why people are using, Adderall or, trying to find whatever advantage they can. It's why they're cheating, trying to, get any advantage they can get in order to make it to the top. And it's a sad reality, because eventually they're going to get caught, or eventually it's going to hurt them mentally. In this case, the Adderall takes a huge mental toll. Adderall is meant for people who really need it. I have a sister. She's 30 years old, but she struggles. She has autism. She has really severe autism, and she's been prescribed Adderall in order to calm her senses because she has seizures and it causes her to have great anxiety. So she herself is prescribed Adderall, and that's a person who really needs it. For the regular person, it's going to take a much heavier toll on your health. She needs that just to, function. When you don't need it to function, it causes you to have a reliance on it in order to function. That's exactly what Mock said, and in his post is that he needs it he felt like he needed it in order to function properly because he gained such a reliance on it. So
Yeah.
I just think it's so damaging to the community. I think it's damaging to everyone who even uses it outside of gaming. I think it really needs to be, if you are prescribed for it, then yeah, you got to take your steps in what you need to do. But if you're not prescribed to it, you're taking it from people who actually need it, and you're hurting yourself in the process.
Yeah, that's right. And also, kind of one more thing I kind of want to add on to that. Even the bench, even if you're not really a star player for an NFL or you play MLB, well, unless you're in a minor league for MLB, or you still make more money than esports pro. A lot of esports pro,
Definitely.
even
Yeah.
if you're not even playing that much. So that's crazy. So second one I got for this topic: why did it take so many years? Mostly this maybe got admitted a couple years ago. I don't remember, by maybe another player, but it never really got to kind of this big of level as kind of what happened yesterday. Why did it take so many years for a COD esports player of a caliber like Hoot to speak up about his Adderall use?
I think this one is easy. I think, one, you don't want to hurt your stock when in Hook's video, he talked about his stock being hurt because people thought he was on different drugs. So, they thought he was on psychedelics. So he wasn't, he was sitting on the bench because everyone thought he was crazy. In reality, he was just, meditating, doing yoga, trying to eat healthier, and it was causing him to have a more positive outlook on life. And that's what's really sad is that, you know, according just to Hook's words, we don't know the entire story, but he says he just had a lot better positive outlook on life. He felt healthier. He was mentally healthier, happier, more confident. You could even see it in his gameplay. He was playing absolutely insane to start the year. He was an undisputed top three player in the game. And that was right around the time that he was, trying to meditate before games, trying to eat healthier, trying to take care of his body without having any reliance on anything else. Um, so I think, it's taken so long because it hurts your stock. I think that's one thing. I think the other thing is that there's a lack of communication and maturity in esports. I think a lot of it is because a lot of us are just sitting at a screen, not talking to people other than over a virtual headset. You're not talking to people, you're not looking at them face to face. And it's different. You can say whatever you want. I mean, that even goes for myself. I sit here and I'm barking at people, I'm yelling at people. It's a different world, and people don't know how to properly communicate with each other. I can't tell you how many times I've been on a team and we're trying to schedule scrimmages and people just don't reply. And then they, show up 20 minutes late and I'm like, "Where were you?" And they're like, "Oh, well, I was ready to go, but you didn't say you were ready." I'm like, there's just different, scenarios where it's just like there's a lack of communication, there's a lack of maturity. It's just it's there's a lot of childish action that takes place in the community, and since it's online, not everyone's friends. it's not very loyal, either. It's just there's a lot of, you know, crappy things that just happen in the background. A lot of words are said behind people's backs. And I just, I think there isn't going to be a change until, someone like Hook, who is of that stature, of that level of respect, comes out and says, yeah, I had a problem with Adderall, with drug abuse, but I also had a problem with people in the scene. He said there were so many people who just believed the rumors about him, even his own teammates now, and none of them even talked to him about it. I'm sorry, if I heard that one of my friends, one of my teammates was, on acid and I was, seeing the guy, knowing him in person, I'd be like, dude, like, what's going on? Like, are you doing okay? And I wouldn't just sit there and believe the lie. And I'd like to think that whoever I'm playing with would do the same. So I just think there's a lack of respect. I think there's a lack of communication and a lack of maturity. And I think people don't want to hurt their stock because they're too selfish and too focused on themselves. To
That
wrap it up
sound,
shortly.
yeah, that sounds about right. I'm not even kind of talk about it because you kind of mentioned all the points. Yeah, the stock, yeah, you don't want to hurt it because that could be a problem. Just if you kind of now you just got all those rumors said about him, it's not going to be great. It's kind of hard to talk about drugs because sometimes it could be taken the wrong way. Um, but since Adderall has been so popular in the COD scene, been used, something's gonna it's gonna stand up to it. And also kind of maybe the last thing that like I don't know, I kind of want to add on. I kind of went blank here. Um, I think you just got to game again. Maybe just who just decide. Okay, I got a lot of stories to tell. This is why I've got dropped I kind of got dropped slash benched 2 times already. Now he's back. Um, to this, now we're fully recovered. This is explain the whole story. You got more evidence on them, so that's kind of great. And I will probably provoke more because some of these players might not have enough evidence to prove that, with the Adderall case, they might just say on Twitter and it's not enough. You know, and we got to see what the other side of the story is. Dallas Empire kind of, well, partially mentioned. It's just kind of with why he got benched, but it's like there had to be more. Still kind of hard to. I think the Dallas Empire you're gonna hear more about. Um, kind of. Actually, we're gonna explain with the next question about this, since we're kind of talking about the Dallas Empire. How could this situation hurt the COD League as a whole and the popularity status of the Dallas Empire?
I think it could hurt the COD League as a whole in a way that it already has today. I think, you look at what Barstool said. Do you have that title
Yes.
of it pulled up? Go ahead
Yeah.
and reread that.
PEDs in esports, quality pro player who commits to cheating in a $4.6 million tournament.
Okay. So you say the words $4.6 million and you say that the player's cheating. Okay, when you put those two things together, it looks like there's a lack of integrity and a lack of, elite status in professional Call of Duty League. Um, I think I I think it's gonna definitely have a negative effect based on how the media takes it. But I think the sad thing is that, you know, this could be used as something really positive. This could be used as, who got out in front of it. He's giving everyone else an opportunity to go out and get behind it with him. You know, I think I think, this is an opportunity to not only, help people that are in the Call of Duty League, but also help all the people that look up to them. You don't, if you got people following after you and, looking up to you and you're, on drugs, promoting negative, attitudes, I think, people that follow you or admire you are going to do the same thing. Because respect and, success starts at the top and people are going to follow suit. So I think, especially when you get to that level, you need to set the standard and say, you know what, doing drugs in order to get your own personal gain is not okay. Not even for the game, but it's also not okay for yourself. It takes a mental toll. It creates, an addiction. It's totally an addiction, and everyone that's, already recovered for that will admit that. Um, so yeah, I think it's going to take a negative turnaround in the eyes of the media, but I think if the players take advantage of the opportunity that Hook and Mox and a couple other players have offered them, then I think it could turn into something really powerful for the gaming community and just, you know, social media as a whole, anyone that sees it. So I hope they can do that because they have a really good chance to do that here.
I'm gonna, yeah, that kind of makes sense. I think I'm gonna talk about the popularity stats of Dallas Empire after this. I think Dallas Empire is gonna look like the bad guys now.
I
You know,
think so too.
you think you look at the LEG situation, there was nothing, you can, well, LEG, they were considered the bad guys when you started the COD League because, you had Aches. There's none kind of proof of that. Toronto Ultra had a scene, they didn't pay Brack some money
Yeah.
because because he had to leave the country. That wasn't that deep. But this one, because this one involves the most amount of money, this has the longest range of effect. The Toronto Ultra one, that probably lasted 1 to 2 months, with the Brack money scene. But that got fixed easily. LEG villain scene, that's nothing really too controversial. That's just the
Uh,
bad guys. Now you look at Dallas Empire, it looks like it's a comparison to the Houston Astros. Now, not to the scale of the Houston, kind of, it's a similarity. It's kind of a similar situation to the scale of the Houston Astros, just not well. It's similar to the Houston Astros situation where you're cheating in a big tournament. It's not like they're doing this like at last year at like one of the home series, which it didn't really involve too much money. I think it was 100K or 50 at each of these home series. But this one, you got a $4.6 million tournament that in Activision, one of the biggest game companies in the world, it's gonna make some immediacy. It's gonna show again. You mentioned just the integrity. It's just there's gonna be a lack of respect. Especially how the media portrays it. The Dallas Empire is gonna look bad because this again. I meant lasted the longest. It went from we say maybe this lasted before him, before champs. Maybe it lasted the whole Modern Warfare year. Maybe it lasted until Hoop, you know, got dropped, benched. It's the last longest situation. No one's handled it. They just let it slide. I don't know if anyone wants to admit to it because then it took too long, and now Hook is going to set the standard that imagine where the Dallas Empire is going to be the most hated team. I think that's what the scary part about this is. It's good that Hook admits something like this, but the Dallas Empire in this situation is going to look bad. And
can I add on to that?
Yeah, sure.
Um, I don't know if I necessarily agree that the Dallas Empire is going to look like the bad guy. I think who's going to look like the bad guy is going to be Crim Six.
Yeah,
And I think that is because there is a pretty strong, knowledge that whatever team Krim is on, he's the leader. He's the one in charge. He's the one gnawing in everyone's ear. He's pretty hardcore. If you're doing something wrong, he's going to let you know. And I think it's going to really make him look bad because when Hook comes out and says someone on the team is going out and asking, why are you doing all these things to yourself and, calling him crazy Hook, crazy Kyler, um, and encouraging, these negative behaviors and activities, most people know it's got to be at least Crim Six, and we all might be wrong on that, but I definitely don't think it's Shotzi, and it might be Elite, but I have strong indication it's at least not Shotzi. Um, but the other thing I wanted to add is calling it cheating. I don't know if it really, it's not like a Dallas Empire thing because if we're being honest, it's been mentioned before by pros in the past. It's been mentioned by top amateur players in the past. There's an actual problem of people actually using Adderall when you get to that high of a level.
hmm
There's so many people in the league that, apparently take it. Who said that there's, tons of players that use it, and I'd be willing to bet that half of them have at least done it sometime in their lifetime while they've been at the professional level. So what I call it cheating? No, because all of them are on it. Then they're all
Yeah.
cheating. So I don't think it changes the level of play, at least in that scenario. I don't think it should be allowed. I think it should be banned for everyone that, is in the league unless you're actually prescribed it in order for your mental health. Um, but I just I think the narrative of them, being cheaters shouldn't be it because every everyone, according to professional players, does that. You know, so I think that's the one place where I would defer is, they might, that's where the media might come out and say, they were cheating because yes, technically it is a performance enhancing drug, but Adderall doesn't only have positive benefits, it has negative benefits too.
Mhm.
It causes, extreme anxiety. If you don't have it, if you don't have that Adderall, you don't, and you have that reliance on it, then you're going to be extremely anxious when you don't have it. So it doesn't only have positive benefits, it has negative benefits. That's why it's an addiction, you know? So that I just wanted to add that point in there that I don't know. I hope the narrative of them cheating to get their victory isn't the case because in reality, I think they might have even done better if he wasn't on Adderall. And I guarantee there's at least another player on that team with Adderall, and I guarantee there's at least one player on probably every team in the
Yeah.
CDL that has that. This has someone on Adderall. You know?
So, yeah, that seems over. I just, yeah, you mentioned it's the Kremsix one's going to be hard the most because, you're just saying, why is he too positive? Well, that's sometimes not a bad thing. Sometimes it could. It just kind of seems out of
Yeah.
ordinary, especially with it's kind of like a bipolar. Well, maybe not like a bipolar, but just kind of
Yeah.
just really, wow, that's a big change in a quick second. It's not like it was developing. It's gonna. I don't know how. I don't think Crimson's stock is gonna be hurt that much, but it's
No, it
just
won't
there's gonna
hurt.
be a lot of question marks
Yep.
about him next year. And you can look at the Dallas Empire market. What happens if Crimson stays there? Now you heard that story with Hook. No one wants to join the Dallas Empire with Crimsix. They're gonna have a hard time kind of finding free players because they know.
Yep.
And sometimes Crimson might be a harsh leader, but it's sometimes not that bad. But when you hear that
So,
story with
yeah,
Hook, just with that, it's really concerning.
definitely.
So we're gonna get off that topic. We're kind of talking about esports as a whole, in regards to the Adderall and drug usage. Why hasn't there been set restrictions slash drug policies for esports as a whole? Especially when esports has existed for 25 years and elect sports have enforced performance enhancing drug policies.
Um, I don't think there's a good answer. I don't think there's a good answer for why there's not, a hammer down on, performance enhancing drugs in esports. I think, part of it is that it costs money, in order to get these drug tests done. And, you can go out and say, don't do drugs, but, especially with, COVID, half of these, you know, esports have been all virtual. The COD League, there hasn't been a LAN in, at least a year. So there's no way for them to really monitor to see if these players are taking drugs because they're just in the comfort of their home. I think they have an opportunity where if they're going to LAN, you can make players get drug tested. And I think that's kind of what Slasher's pushing for, and that's something I'd be in support in because you have to take care of your players, but you also have to maintain the integrity of the league. Um, so I don't know why there hasn't been that in the past. I don't know enough about the legality of it, or how much it would cost, but it definitely should be in, esports, I think.
Yeah, I was gonna say kind of similar thing. Just there's no governing body for esports. I talked about this
Yep.
I think a couple months, I think a month ago when I was talking about fighting games topics, kind of relations. Like there's no governing body, there's no leading organization that kind of covers. Well, that was just for fighting games specifically, but like for all esports, there's not one. Unless it's all separate. Activision esports has it. Riot Games has its own. EA, with Apex Legends, all the other games have their own. But you look at, it's all separate, and they got different rules and mindsets and all that, and it's really hard to enforce that. Just with all, and yeah, you mentioned already, just esports being virtual this year. With
Hmm.
COVID, you can look, and there's been online tournaments for other games in years, but fully, you can get a lot away with. Sorry, I speak a little bit too fast. You can get
You're
a
good.
lot. You can get a way of a lot of stuff in this year, in the COVID years. You can get away with internet ping. You can get away with, a lot of stuff, cheating and all that. Kind of modding, hacking, all that stuff.
Hmm.
You know, and that's what makes it this easy for this year because you can get away with a lot of stuff. You already seen a lot of cheaters. In the challenger scene with hacking, walls and all that, and they're not going to check out at all. They're not going to check your overall diet, and that's something that's going to be hard
Hmm.
because really they're going to test the esports overall diet and just to
Yeah.
see if there's drugs. So it's this. Is I think the big thing is just there's no governing body. You can look at the NFL; they got their own policies. NBA, they, you know, it's a long policy list, and they control it really well. Again, you mentioned the money; that's the big thing. It costs a lot to do drug tests. Shockingly, you unfortunately you can't do a drug test via cotton swab for the nose for Adderall.
Hmm.
So that's right on the market. So next question I got: Could actually I might skip this one. Actually, could the East? Actually, I'm going to skip this one because it didn't make sense when I wrote it down. So next question. This one you kind of mentioned already. I
Hmm.
know this one might be controversial for both of us. Should Adderall be banned to the public even if the person is suffering from, your case, just say ADHD or depression, or maybe like not Adderall, but So what do you mean by Adderall? Okay, it's a stimulant enhancing drug. So any drugs. So okay, let me. Sorry, I'm getting really confused. My words.
You're good.
Adderall is stimulant enhancing. You got drugs that kind of are depressants. They kind of calm you down. Should they ban all those drugs to the public because they know the health effects are,
So do I think it should be banned? Is that kind of what you're
banned to
trying
the
to get at?
public, but it's like banned to the public besides, you mentioned your sister having autism. Besides, those serious cases.
Um, that's a hard one for me to answer. I don't know, the exact effects. Because I've never taken it. I don't know the legality of it. What I do know is that it's negatively impacted a lot of people who don't necessarily need it in order to properly function. Um, so I think if you're not prescribed it, I don't think you should be using it. I think, if you are the type of person where you think you have a hard time focusing instead of, stealing Adderall from someone who actually needs it, look to other alternatives, which, Hook even offered up in his, video where he was like, I've been really working on meditation, and I think that's a positive way. I think, for a lot of people, religion, getting, growing your faith, I think is a really healthy alternative. That's something that I know I do, and it works really well for me as a Christian. I think I think talking to other people about, what you're struggling with, how, just communicating with other people, I think would increase your focus because if you talk to other people about what you got going on, it's going to decrease your anxiety about the situation. Um, so in short, I think you shouldn't take it unless you're prescribed because there's healthy alternatives out there, that aren't illegal and that are still effective, you know?
How do these players kind of make it past that? Like even without kind of having years of this, because that's something where they get it, they just get prescribed it, and it's only been happening for a month. That's like the crazy part about it is this. It's something where it's not. You mentioned your sister having autism that lasts for a long time. That makes sense, but something that just happens, like they get addicted to Adderall in a month, and these doctors allowed to get prescribed, and it's not. It hasn't been for multiple years. Like I get if it's like this. You have these um health problems, mental health problems
Hmm.
for many years, but just something. Actually, no. Sometimes a mental health problem can happen quickly in a month, but sometimes there's got to be alternatives, especially unless it's happened for multiple years. But why does it get prescribed so quick? That's just crazy. It gets prescribed so quick to where it doesn't. I don't know. It just doesn't make sense how they get prescribed these drugs real quick, especially
Well,
with measures developing.
a lot of people aren't getting them as a prescription. I think a lot
Oh,
of people are get a lot of people get them, there's plugs for it. There's people that, are addy plugs or, a lot of I mean, I know Zuma came out and said, he's taken Adderall since he was 10 years old because I think he said he had severe ADHD, but he was prescribed by a doctor to take it. But, so in those kind of cases, like that's when you should take it, I think, in order to function. Um, or you have a serious mental health problem, but like, yeah, I don't know how it gets prescribed, because I've never been prescribed it, so I don't know what the level of it is. But what I do think is that, if you don't have a serious mental health problem, if you don't have something severe or you're not, autistic, mentally ill, one of those things, or have like severe ADHD, any of that, I don't think you should be taking it. Like, as someone, I've experienced anxiety in the past. I still experience it to this day. I struggle to focus sometimes, but I think that's just, you know, a normal thing. Everyone does that. And I just think in order to get past that, for people that have, gained an addiction to it, I think it's just realizing that, yeah, you're addicted to it and that you've become reliant on it, and then surrounding yourself with people that will hold you accountable and working to get past it, by sourcing to healthy alternatives, kind of like what Hook did.
Mhm. That's just find alternatives. I think that's the best way to kind of do it. If for anyone who does
Totally.
suffer from ADHD or any kind of performance, just kind of mental health problems, that kind of just affect your brain. Nothing unless it was a serious case. So next question: what could this Adderall situation mean for? I know this. So I'm gonna for marijuana usage in esports as a whole, especially when NFL and other sports use marijuana. No, so the reason I came up with this question is marijuana calms you down. Now this is different from Adderall,
Hmm.
where it just builds you up. So what could and marijuana has been going through stages of legality. NFL, started
Hmm.
to force this. Could this kind of how did this one situation kind of with marijuana esports? Because this is something that I don't think anyone's talked about. I don't think anyone's kind of think about, but
Yeah,
it
that's a
could
good.
possibly be something for the future.
Yeah, that's a good question. I think from a legal standpoint, I don't think it makes a lot of sense um to ban that from players, especially when you see these other professional sports opening it up, because in comparison to something like alcohol, which is legal, um, it's not all that different in levels of effects, and in a lot of ways, it's kind of better for you than something like alcohol.
Hmm.
But at the same time, I think it's in the matter of how it's used. I think if it is used as a reliance, if you are using it out of reliance to control your, anxiety, to control your happiness, to keep you calm, I think that's when it's becoming a problem, when you become reliant on it for those things. Um, I think for myself, I've tried to always limit, you know, things that I could become addicted to because I never really want to become reliant on anything for my happiness and mental health other than my relationship with God. But I definitely fall short of that sometimes, and I think everyone falls short of that. Um, so do I think it should happen? Do I think people should go to that as an alternative? No. But do I think it should be illegal? I'm gonna say no, because I think compared to other alternatives, I think it is definitely better.
I honestly think it's the same thing. I think it should be allowed, but I think it has to be a limitation because
Hmm.
marijuana can help with like nerve problems, all these other health problems. I can't really list it because I don't feel like researching them right now. But people can do it. Anyone who uses can kind of look it up. But there's just a lot of it helps more of your body than what Adderall does
Hmm.
because Adderall can start more problems. Marijuana, it can start. It usually is used to kind of okay. Let's not say marijuana is going to be the healing factor of everybody's lives. Let's not get too
Hmm.
fast. It still has to be proven, but it tends to a lot. Sometimes it get used. used for healing
Hmm.
purposes. And especially with how players are, with having playing a lot of times a day, it's a lot of stress. You
Hmm.
can have headaches. You sit in the chair for a while. You could probably have some nerve problems, carpal tunnel, um, neck problems. Maybe a
Totally.
little smoke at the joint might be helpful. So
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you on that.
I think that's where you gotta. It has to be allowed, but it has to be limitations. Again, you mentioned if it becomes reliance for these players, then it's probably going to stop. And especially with like weed being legal, kind of in some restrictions. Now you could see most of these players like times that weed becomes legal, you're going to see a Denver esports team soon. You're going to see
Yeah.
so you're gonna see a Denver COD team, and
Yeah.
people are gonna
Yeah.
move to
Fair point.
Colorado and all these other places that are legal,
Hmm.
so they can bypass it. And I think the hard thing with that is Adderall is like nationwide. If you can enhance this nationwide, but and this is probably easier to do, but like weed, it's kind of hard to do
Yep.
because it's some states ban it, some states allow it. You don't know
Definitely.
how all these esports leagues are going to handle it because it's all different
Yeah.
legislations in these countries, and also kind of I don't know. It's just something that's a question mark. Actually, it
Yeah.
might not be that bad if leagues like esports do enforce it, because it's not like it's going to affect state
Yeah.
legislature or all that. But I think we gotta see how it goes. I think people need to. I would suggest it. I don't know if anyone's gonna. I don't know what's gonna happen. I don't know when it's gonna happen, but I gotta see this in the future. I want to see how marijuana does for esports players, and
Hmm.
or like any gamer intact, even streamers, see how the effect is before you start seeing. Because I'm probably guessing it's banned for all the esports, but I think it's start to kind of test it out, do trial runs, and see what effects it has before you kind of start enforcing it. But I think marijuana should be allowed. Yeah, that's kind of right. So next question I got. So this you can also say the COD League answer, COD, but this you can say other esports if you want to.
Hmm.
Which esport, this is going to be one esport, not kind of multiple, so only one answer. Which esport do you believe you're the most concerned in regards to drugs/Adderall usage?
Um, I honestly don't know a lot about a lot of other esports, but I think as a general rule, the ones that I'd be the most concerned about are the ones where you need to be cognitively performing at the highest level at all times. And I think Call of Duty is one of those, but I also think, that could go League of Legends. I think that could go Rainbow Six Siege,
Yep.
Overwatch, Valorant. I think any of those. I mean, I think it's bad for all of them, but I think the ones where you really need to be, that's the whole thing about gaming is you need to be, cerebrally sound and on top of your game at all times if you want to make it to the top. And that's something that, Adderall is usually helpful with is, keeping you on track, keeping you to have the same drive, keeping you focused. So I think Call of Duty is definitely a really, really big concern, but I could definitely, if I knew more about other esports, I could definitely see it going to one of those as well.
I got Fortnite. This I think the reason you talk about League of Legends. You talk about these esports that kind of require a lot of focus. There's a lot of teamwork involved. I'm gonna go one that doesn't really involves the least amount of teamwork because you don't have usually the most you have is three players or two players on your team,
Yeah.
and that's Fortnite. Because the big factor about this is, you look at League of Legends, most of the players have to be over League of Legends, Rainbow Six, um, maybe Overwatch, many Valorant. Most of the players have to be over 18.
Yep.
That's or 17 or 18. Fortnite is up to 13, I believe. 13 for for the esports to be allowed to play, and especially at a young level, kid, all you want is energy. Especially how the world is, where more and more kids in high school and middle school are taking drugs. Um, and that's you have esports with this. What advantage can you get? These are the most hyper. You talk about how you can look at me, 20 years old. I forget how old you are.
21.
21. So being enough the low 20s, we still have a lot of energy, but you look at 13, 14, 15, 16, they got a lot of energy in them. They got the hyper, high metabolism. What can get them more into focus? They
Yep.
already have high metabolism. That's a big advantage already over kind of us. That's why a lot of esports athletes, players kind of retire at 25 to 30 because they
Hmm.
can't, he can't compete anymore with the youngsters.
Yep.
And so, what advantage can you take? Well, if you're young and you got them high metabolism, how about you increase them more with Adderall, with drugs, stimulants? So, let's try that. And
Yep.
I think you're talking about most concern because their body's still developing. Us, being 20 and 21, yeah, our body's still developing, but not at the same rate as someone who's 13 to 14.
Yeah.
And that's not great. So I think you talk about any other esports. Rocket League is the same thing. They do a lot of players. I think as young as 13 to 14. So as I don't know, I gotta go with Fortnite because it's always been the most
That's a good one.
childish game, and it's always the one that it could really turn disaster real quickly, especially kind of how fast you have to build, how quick you have to shoot.
Yeah.
It's a fast action game. You talk about Rainbow Six, maybe Rainbow Six, Valorant, League of Legends. There's strategy along with it, so you kind of have to think before you act. Fortnite, you kind of have to act immediately to a lot of the situations, especially if you get
Hmm.
shot. So yeah, I think that's the one I got most concerned about.
I think that's very reasonable.
So next one I got is you kind of already talked about this, but I'm going to kind of read it out. You didn't have so you admitted that some of your game friends. So the question I got: Have you? So you haven't, but your gaming friends have taken Adderall or related stimulants for game purposes. So what did it actually do to the actual? What did it do to the health? Like what for the like? It's kind of hard to notice because you probably don't see a lot of these people.
Yeah.
But what did it do to the overall health when they admitted they took Adderall or kind of with the
Yeah.
high amount of game for ownership?
Sure. I think, not knowing a lot of these people on a really, deep level, hard to say. But I think, I do have a decent ability to kind of get a general read on people of who they are. And I've found that a common theme in people who have a reliance on something, whether that's Adderall, whether that's, game fuel, whether that's, a vape, marijuana, things like that, especially in the gaming world. A lot of them I know struggle really badly with self-confidence and anxiety. And a lot of that can be shown in even their gameplay too, or how they talk to other people. I think sometimes there can be a lack of social skills, or a lack of connection on human emotion with a lot of them because they're out of touch with reality. They have things that they are putting into their body that are chemically formulating, you know, different reactions for them in their brain, which, makes them act differently. I don't know the exact science of it, but I know that's true. Um, so yeah, I think it can cause anxiety, self-confidence issues, mental health issues, and I think it can also just create a disconnect between you and other people.
Hmm. Do you have any specific memories, specific situations that you remember where it was you knew the teammate was you played with a lot of people, you knew the person was taking Adderall, and you just what was I don't know, just specific
Um,
moments. You
so
don't have
if
to don't explain the name, but
Yeah, yeah, of course. I don't think it's really hard to tell, because when you're playing with someone else, you can't, it's hard for you to gauge just based off of their gameplay whether or not they're taking a performance enhancing drug. So I don't really know. I mean, your first instinct if someone is, playing off the charts, or their reaction time is insanely good or something, is that they might be hacking. That's usually where my head would go. So, but I've never had the thought of, is this person taking Adderall while I'm playing or watching that gameplay? Um, so yeah, that would have to be my answer. Not entirely sure, but I mean, I could probably pinpoint, a couple people that I've played with that have definitely, been on it, I think.
Have any? So I don't. I was. Have anyone admitted to it?
Mm,
Probably not.
I've heard people joke about it. I don't know, maybe they weren't, and I've always taken them as jokes, but maybe they weren't joking. I don't know. But I mean, I've heard people t say it though.
Oh, they're just curious. Yeah, it's kind of hard to tell, just
Yeah.
because everybody has a weird personality online. And,
I
it
mean,
might be.
yeah, I can guarantee that. I mean, there's at least been multiple people that I've played with that have definitely used it. Because when you get to the level that I play at, which isn't even the upper echelon, I'm probably at least top 500 player in the world. The even up there, the level of competition is super high, and
Mhm.
there's a skill gap, and you can tell that there's definitely people that have a reliance on it in order to get where they're at.
Yep. So the last question I got for you, this one's kind of free ball. If you were the COD League commissioner and saw that over half of your current pro players were taking Adderall, how would so at just say this was to yesterday's situation? You just right now,
Mhm.
you're the COD commissioner. How would you handle this situation? And what punishments could occur?
Um, I don't even know if I would punish the players, honestly. I think I would ban it. I think that would be the first thing I would do. Uh, I would I would I would ban Adderall from the Call of Duty League.
Hmm.
The second thing I would do would be, this is eliminating all ideas of financial, anything, any boundaries, all of that. I'm just going to pretend that doesn't exist. If I had complete control of the situation, I would ban Adderall. I would make sure that LAN is back, so everyone is in person, so you have the opportunity to test these players. But I wouldn't be doing it entirely for just the performance enhancement. I would be doing it for the mental health and physical health of the players, um, because I want them, one, to be performing at the top of their game, and they're going to be performing better if they have control of their mental and physical health. You could see that precisely in and Hook's gameplay. When he was before he had, kind of gotten attacked by, we won't say Crim Six, but by one of his teammates, and he kind of his self-confidence dwindled a little bit. He was playing the best COD in the league, and it was pretty undisputed. Before he kind of had that hit in self-confidence from his teammate for being too positive or whatever that was. Because he was taking care of his body, he's taking care of his mental health and his physical health. And I think, I would want that for the players too. So I would, in total, I would ban Adderall, bring land back, and have drug testing at every single event.
That sounds about right.
Whatever you do in your free time, you can do in your free time. But when you are playing in the league, that's what you have to do.
Yep. That's probably the same thing I'll do. I think for punishments, I think from my side, if you get caught, I think you get a year ban. It might be actually like we'll go with a tens. I don't know how we're gonna do this. We'll go with a two event ban. Like
That's
a
reasonable.
state to a two stage ban.
That's
So
not
two
bad.
full stages. So that will over account to next year. So you get just say who just we'll go with this fucker. Who gets caught stage five? He's banned for that stage, and then he's banned for year one, year three, stage one. So whatever that counts. I don't know if it's gonna be the same format next year. We'll figure out the formats. We'll probably have to adjust it, but yeah.
Yeah, totally.
So the actually, closing topic question I got is before we end it off here. Since we're talking about COD the whole time, might as well kind of give suggestions. What is one change that you want to see in regards to the COD League that is for kind of what's happening right now, or just for preparation for next season?
Two things I really want to see.
That's fun.
Sorry, I had two things come to my head, and I want to say both of
That's
them.
good.
Um, One, I want to see less of a need for there to be gentlemen's agreemented bans on guns, on things. I would rather there be a cohesive connection in between the developers of the game and the competitive side. I think competitive players have gotten the short end of the stick the last couple of years, which is sad to see because we're the ones that come back every year to play.
Hmm.
Everyone else comes and goes. I get there's more of them, so you want to tend to the masses, which it's about money. It's I get that. That's what I would do too. But at the same time, I think there needs to be a little bit more close of a connection in between competitive and the actual game. Because I'm telling you, from playing regular multiplayer to playing even just league play to then even playing actual competitive, they're three completely different things, and I don't think they should be that different. Second thing I would do is I would try and expand the league as far as I could with teams. Um, I think I don't know how interested other markets are, how different cities would be interested, but I would love to see more players in the league, more opportunities for younger players, more opportunities for top amateurs, but also just more exposure everywhere. I would just love to see it. You know how the MLB, NBA, they all have 30 to 32 teams. I would love to see that in the COD League, it eventually getting up to that. So those would be the two things that I would do.
I'm going to add 2 points to the league, the additional leagues. First thing, 30 would be too much. I think there's going to be a lack of amateur scene at that point. Second thing, what four markets are you interested in to see?
Four markets. And there will never be a lack of amateur talent, let me tell you.
Yeah, I know, but
Um,
I think too. I
I get
think
what
too
you're
many teams
saying.
will. Yeah.
I mean, I wouldn't do it right now. I would, maybe four teams next year. Um, I would love to see Cleveland just because that's where I'm from. I love Cleveland. Shout out Cleveland. Go Brownies. Um, so there that would be the first, just so I could have a home team to support. After that, I think it would be cool to see Boston. It'd be cool to see, something like Denver. Um, I'd love to see maybe like another Canadian team like Vancouver or even another European team like shoot, I don't know, like Madrid, because I know Spain's got a lot of like really dedicated like fans. The Team Heretics back in Black Ops 4, they had some of the craziest fans in the world. So it'd be cool. It would be cool to see some like worldly, so I would say Madrid, Vancouver, Cleveland, and Boston. I think those would be four good uh cities to add to the league.
Detroit, because that's where usually I was from.
Yeah,
Uh, Phoenix, I think will be an interesting
that
market.
would be a cool one.
I want to. I wish that I'll go with. I actually go with Madrid too. Although I think just for the European market, either
Yep.
one and the last one it will be. I don't know. Canada's kind of hard to tell. They don't have a deep talent pool like North America. I gotta go back to NA. Uh, Las Vegas. I know Las Vegas might be the most disastrous one out of them because
Yeah, but that one's
people
probably the
kill.
most likely.
Yeah, I think it'll be fun to see that.
That would be fun.
I think a
Totally.
wild card pick you said kind of. Uh, I think a wild card pick I gotta go with Berlin.
That'd be kind
That
of cool.
could be an interesting one. I thought there's not a deep German scene, but or I think that's why I go with that. It's probably not going to happen because again, Germany seems not that deep. But I think, especially kind of, you have League of Legends, the LEC headquarters there. You got the next Valorant tournament there. You got a lot of German talent in the PC scene. COD is a PC esport. You can hopefully develop that. But yeah, so yeah, that's going to be the end of the podcast. Thank you guys for watching. For talking about drug abuse and esports, more talking about the hoop situation with the Adderall usage, and kind of talking about the future, and kind of why Adderall is bad and why everybody should rely on alternatives like meditation, yoga, just find out a means to kind of promote focus, energy, and happiness. Do you want to give any shout outs, Kanwa, before we get off?
Sure. Shout out Team Nuclear. They've been really supportive of me and I really appreciate everything that they've done. Um, yeah, I mean that's the biggest one. Yeah, shout out to them and shout out to everyone that's been a real genuine friend of mine in and outside of the game. I your genuine integrity does not go unappreciated.
Hmm. Well, that's gonna be the end of the podcast. Thank you guys for watching. I'll see you guys hopefully in the next couple of days. Bye.